bone loss is often silent. You usually don't feel it happening. In fact, MedlinePlus notes that bone loss often has no symptoms until the first bone break. That's exactly why earlier support matters. Waiting until your bones start asking for help is not the best strategy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the NatureCity podcast. I'm your host, Pradelli. If you haven't been here before, I'm also the CEO and co-founder of the company, having started NatureCity over 20 years ago with my wife, Beth, and since then, it's been our privilege to have served over 500,000 Americans by offering them the best supplements we can make. When most women start to think about bone health, and more importantly, start to take action, they tend to be in their late 60s, 70s, or beyond. It's often a reaction to a bone density scan or guidance from a physician. And this is good. But here's the truth. At this point, bone loss is typically well underway, and you're trying to play catch up. The bottom line is this. Bone health support should start earlier than most women think. Now, the good news is this. It's never too early to support stronger bones, and it's never too late. But if your goal is to stay mobile, independent, active, and help protect against fractures later in life, the smartest time to start supporting bone health is before a major problem shows up. That's what I want to talk about today, because bone health is not just about getting older. It's about what your body is doing right now and how well you're supporting it over time. And this matters for both women and men, but is especially important for women. According to the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation, 1 in 2 women and up to 1 in 4 men over age 50 will break a bone in their lifetime. Other work suggests that it's fair to say women are roughly 3 times more likely than men to break a bone later in life. Men are affected too, absolutely, but women are at significantly greater risk, and one major reason is menopause. Bone loss accelerates around menopause, and MedlinePlus notes that bone loss increases during the first few years after the last period. That's why this message matters so much. The years surrounding menopause are one of the most important times to think proactively about bone health. Now, before we go further, let's clear up a common misunderstanding. Bone is not a static structure. It's a living tissue. Your bones are constantly being remodeled. Some cells are breaking down older bone, and then there are other cells building new bone. The cells that break down old bone are called osteoclasts. The cells that build new bone are called osteoblasts. Healthy bones depend on maintaining the right balance between these two processes. And when that balance starts shifting too far towards breakdown, bone density and bone strength can gradually decline. The problem is, bone loss is often silent. You usually don't feel it happening. In fact, MedlinePlus notes that bone loss often has no symptoms until the first bone break. That's exactly why earlier support matters. Waiting until your bones start asking for help is not the best strategy. Now, if you ask most people what supports bone health, they'll usually say one thing: calcium. And calcium absolutely matters, but calcium alone is not the full solution. That's one of the biggest misconceptions in this whole category. Strong bones require more than calcium alone. Healthy bone formation requires a broader system of nutrients working together. It needs the full orchestra, not the solo performer. For example, your body also needs the nutrients that help absorb calcium, direct calcium, structure bone properly, and support the matrix that gives bone both density and strength. So let's walk through the key nutrients on this team. First, of course, is calcium. Calcium is foundational. Bones store the majority of the calcium in the body, and you need enough of it to help maintain bone mass over time. But calcium doesn't work in isolation. You also need vitamin D. Vitamin D helps your body absorb calcium, and without enough vitamin D, calcium support is limited. Then there's vitamin K2. K2 is important because it works with vitamin D to help direct calcium to bones where you want it. It's not just about calcium intake and absorption, escorting it to the bone matrix matters too. Then there's magnesium. Magnesium is another mineral people don't get enough of, and it plays a meaningful role in bone structure, as well as in the way the body handles vitamin D and calcium. Magnesium helps support the process by which bones become stronger and more structurally sound. This is another good candidate for supplementation because research and health authorities also recognize that magnesium intake is generally inadequate in many adults. And then there's one of the most overlooked bone nutrients of all, silica. Silica does not get nearly enough attention, but it helps support the bone matrix and connective tissue framework that strong bones depend on. Silica contains the element silicon, and like the silicon chip that helps power your computer or device, silicon helps energize the bone formation process. So when you really step back and look at bone biology, you start to see the picture more clearly. Strong bones need calcium, yes, but they also need direction, structure, and support. That's why I've said before that what most people need is not just a calcium supplement, but a bone health solution. And this is where the form of calcium really matters. Not all calcium sources are the same. In our view, plant calcium has important advantages over regular calcium, which typically comes from limestone rock. And that's one reason we've believed so strongly in algae cal for supplements. Plant calcium is more than calcium. It's part of a broader nutritional package. It doesn't come alone. It comes with additional trace minerals and cofactors that better reflect how the body actually builds and maintains bone. Keep in mind, your goal is not just more calcium. Your goal is better bone nourishment. Now, supplements matter, but lifestyle matters too. Bones respond to how you live. Weight-bearing exercise matters. Strength training matters. Staying active matters. Adequate protein matters. Avoiding long stretches of inactivity matters. In other words, supplements can help support your bones, but bones also respond to movement and daily living. This activity and resulting stress on bones sends a signal to the body that stronger bones are needed, and the body goes to work to deliver what you need. That's why bone health is really a long game strategy. It's built over years and decades, not weeks. And that brings me to something I think is very important and very encouraging. At NatureCity, many true OsteoPlus users tend to start later, often in their late 60s, early 70s, or beyond. And we can still help support increases in bone density and strength. So this is not a message of discouragement. It's a message of timing. The ideal time to start is earlier, especially before and around the years following menopause, when bone loss tends to accelerate. But meaningful support can still happen later too. So really, the ultimate message is never too early, never too late. If you are younger, supporting your bones now is a strategic move for your future mobility, independence, and fracture protection. And if you are older, there is still real value in supporting your bones consistently with the right nutrients and habits. That's why at NatureCity, we take a systems-based view of bone health. True OsteoPlus and True Osteo are built around the idea that strong bones require more than calcium alone. The only difference between the two products is True OsteoPlus contains stress support in the form of central ashwagandha, which may help protect bones from the damaging effects of stress and elevated cortisol levels. And depending on individual needs, additional support from True K2D3 or True Magnesium can also make sense. Because again, the body works through systems, and bone health is one of the clearest examples of that. So, to summarize, bone health support should start earlier than commonly believed. Women are at significantly greater fracture risk than men as they age. Bone loss often accelerates in the years following menopause. Bone is living tissue that is constantly being broken down and rebuilt. And strong bones require more than calcium alone. They require a smarter support system, including plant calcium, vitamin D3, vitamin K2, magnesium, silica, movement, and consistency over time. So don't wait until your bones start asking for help. The smartest move is to start supporting them earlier so you can stay active, mobile, independent, and strong later in life. If you want to learn more about True Osteo Plus, True Osteo, True K2D3, True Magnesium, you can visit naturecity.com. That's it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. Please like it if it was helpful to you, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss future episodes of the NatureCity podcast, or you can listen to us on your favorite streaming service or on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. This is Pradelli, and I'll see you next episode.